Welcome to Worthy Ones, the video series where I take all the newest #1 comic book issues that I read for the current comic book week and deem them worthy or not worthy. I'm Mike Spider Slayer. Welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. If you guys love daily comic book content, if you love me helping you make decisions on what comic books to buy, why don't you consider hitting that subscribe button? And guys, it's much appreciated. So before we dive into it, guys, I just gotta give a quick shout out to the sponsor of this video, Sidekick. What happens when you start a new box with too much empty space? Your books slide, they slouch, they flop, they bend, they crease, and now your books are ruined. But what's the solution? Well, pick up a Sidekick today. Be the hero of your comic collection. The Sidekick fits firmly in your short box to keep those comics upright and prevent them from falling. So guys, check out Sidekick today. There is a link in my description box below. This product is made in the USA. It offers free shipping, and if you use my promo code Slayer15, you'll also get 15% off. And also, if that is not good enough, guys, when you make a purchase for Sidekick, there is a portion of the proceeds go to Comic Book for Kids. So they are a proud partner of that charity. So guys, what are you waiting for? Check out Sidekick to protect your comic book collection. Uma, the beginning of her, issue 1, published by Titans Comic. This is a 32-page comic for $5. It's written by Ji Young Lee. Nabatis Zitro is the artist on this book. The artwork looks okay in this issue. It's dark, it's gritty. There's fights that take place in the alley streets. This, whatever she is a pretty awesome looking character that is introduced in the comic. Some of the facial expressions, like a lot of characters look real skinny and have like crazy jawbones. There's a lot of like lines in the art and whatnot. But it wasn't bad. It was okay. It was just better at times, and at times it just seemed a little scribbly. So that's how I looked at it. So what was this issue about? Well, it seems like it's this main guy who has prostitutes that use drugs, and he's just a crime boss, right? He's like a kingpin, and he owns all these women, and these women look like they're trying to escape, trying to get out, right? And they'll do anything, and maybe they'll buy their way out. And also, there is another woman in here who has a daughter where the crime lord is actually raising the daughter as his own. And she's like, I want to leave. I've earned enough money. And he's like, all right, I'll let you go in 2 days. And it's like, okay. And it was just like, they're earning money to try to buy their freedom. That's basically what it is. The crazy thing about this comic is there's much more to it in the beginning, where we have like these random people that are just like these insane like creatures here, and I'm just like, well, what's going on there? And they touch on that in the very beginning, but then they leave that alone, and they don't even touch on it again. So based off of the description of this comic, it says that this woman by the name of Kalinda escapes from the drug syndicate, and she discovers an ancient blade in a long abandoned temple. So nowhere is that ever hinted in this comic book whatsoever. So I just felt like the storytelling here was a little bit disjointed. Same with the artwork. So this book for me is not worthy. This is just something I would not continue in the long term. It did not interest me enough. I did not find myself attached to any of the characters, really. It just reminded me of like a, cheap Kingpin knockoff in a way. So yeah, if I graded this book, it would be like a D+. It wasn't the worst thing I ever read, but it wasn't very interesting. The Bloody Dozen, A Tale of the Shrouded College, issue 1. This book was not on my radar whatsoever. But I saw that it was a new #1. The comic shop did recommend it to me, and they were like, well, it's Charles Soule. It's the same writer, obviously, that wrote 8 Billion Genies. And I looked at the artwork inside at the shop, and I'm like, you know what? I'll check it out. I'll see what it has to offer, especially with a week that did not have a lot of new number ones that I was interested in. So this book is 32 pages. It is a $4 comic. Again, it's written by Charles Soule. The artwork is done by Humberto Jimenez Albuquerque. The artwork is actually pretty good in this book. What I did really like about the art is also the colors. They bring the characters to life. The facial expressions were really cool in this book. I love like the action in this book. There's times where it was like kind of gory, like this page right here. I was like, oh dang, there's some action going on with this old guy. Like, who is this old guy, right? So it seems to be the theme of this review show so far, where we have a person that uses drugs, right? But anyway, what this book is about is a female who is trying to recruit astronauts to free vampires that are in space close to the sun, if that makes sense. So this book opens up in the year, I think it was like 1923 or something like that, and there's supposed like vampires in here, and they escaped, and they had to find a way to like put these vampires in a place where they're not going to escape again. So what did they do? They wound up putting them in space. So we get to see our main like vampire female right here, and she's trying to recruit astronauts that have like training. And first you wind up seeing the mom, who was supposed to go to space, but then didn't go to space, and her husband wound up dying on the particular mission she was supposed to go on. And then we wound up getting introduced to the daughter of the astronaut, who is like a drug user, and she was an army ranger. And then we wound up finding the dad, who was also a former astronaut and who's also done missions in space. And there, you know, our female wants to recruit these, you know, people to go out on this mission. And they're kind of like, well, what's the motive here, you know? And she's like, well, listen, I can give you your family values back, and I can do this and I can do that. The Shrouded College can help you. But she never really gave them the reason of why they're going into space until the very end of the issue. And again, it's to free all their people out in space. And I'm like, holy cow, that is wild, dude. So this book is definitely worthy. I had a lot of fun with it. I think what made it fun was the characters in the book. They're likable. The main person that's putting the mission together is a pretty interesting character. We don't know that much about her, but the family dynamic here is pretty interesting, as this family has split up and this female vampire girl has brought them together to do this mission out in space. And I find that very intriguing. So this is a book that was not even on my radar. It surprised me a lot. And so, grading this book, I'm going to give this one a B+. I wanted more out of this book, and because I didn't want it to end, right? I just wanted a little bit more, I guess, out of certain characters or whatever the case may be. They tried to squeeze in a lot in the last 2 pages, which could overwhelm the reader a little bit instead of letting that comic breathe. But nevertheless, it's a great book. It has me intrigued, and I would say pick this one up, guys. This is a good surprise. Daredevil Gang War Issue 1. Now, again, guys, we are all very scared when it comes to event tie-ins, and this is the newest one that was released besides the Miles Morales, but that was not a new number 1. This book is written by Erica Schultz, and the artwork is done by Sergio Fernandez de Villa. Let me tell you guys, the artwork in this comic book I felt was phenomenal. The coloring is gorgeous. I love how they were comic accurate to when it comes to Keto's artwork, when it comes to Elektra's hair. It's just over exaggerated. It's all over the place. The fight scenes are very intense in here. And honestly, guys, this book had lots of action. We had this character in here, which I found out the name of her is X-23 One Bell. Is it Bologna? I've never seen her before. I don't know who she actually is. So if you want to let me know in the comments below, just go ahead and do that. But we get to see a fight between her and Elektra, which was actually electrifying. Pun intended right there. And what this comic had to offer was just obviously Spider-Man recruiting Elektra to protect Hell's Kitchen against the whole gang war situation that's happening. And we come across Elektra going against the character by the name of Raphael Scarf, who is I think he was a sergeant in the police, so he's a corrupted police officer. And then she comes across that villain that I talked about earlier, okay? And so again, it was just very action-packed with her teaming up with Spider-Man, was absolutely a lot of fun, and this book was definitely worthy. I had a lot of fun reading this book. Owl makes his appearance here, and this is a tie-in that is worthy of reading, like I said, because it directly ties into this event. There's no sugarcoating it. We got the Owl explaining everything that's going on to Elektra, who all the major players are in the gang war, and obviously he's trying to benefit from this, trying to gain, the person who might show up on top. But again, with awesome artwork, solid storytelling, great action, this is a book that you guys might want to pick up and consider, collecting while gang war is going on. So I'm going to give this book a solid A. Great book. SpiderGwen Smash, issue 1. So, I'm not going to lie. When it comes to the SpiderGwen series, they're all mini-series, and they all have been mid. So I was very hesitant about picking this comic up. This one is a 36-page comic for $5. The writer here is Melissa Flores, and Enid Balam is the artist here. The artwork is okay in this book. I thought some of the facial expressions were okay. Some of the characters look a little skinny and lengthy, right? But there is Dazzler in this comic, which I thought was really fun, which is fun because it kind of fits the tone of what Gwen Stacy is in this comic. She's a drummer, and we wind up getting to see the Mary Janes go on a 4-city tour with the Dazzler, and I thought that was cool. And they're also named Dazzler and the Uncut Gems. And so this is a big deal for these guys because every time they play together, there's always something bad that happens, or Gwen is not there, and Gwen says, you know what, I can commit to a 4-city tour, I'll do this, I'll be there for my team. And the next thing you wind up finding out is, of course, the concert winds up getting wrecked. Now, you can't help but think that since Dazzler in this comic, we got a little inspiration of, maybe Taylor Swift being Dazzler, and here's her showing up, made this comic a little bit more fun, right? And all of a sudden, you wind up seeing a Hulk show up in the comic and creates havoc on the scene. We find out that there's been a bunch of groupies that have been harassing Dazzler, and they're trying to figure out who it is, and it's taking it to a whole nother level. And at the end of the issue, you wind up finding out that I think it's Bruce Banner who is the one that's like this little stalker, because he's got posters up everywhere and things like that. So I don't know, it's kind of interesting and a little creepy at the same time, but I'm gonna deem this book worthy. Yeah, it's worthy. It was fun. I thought out of all the miniseries I have read with Spider-Gwen so far, this one is the best one. It has me intrigued because it has a little bit of mystery in there. It's like, why is Bruce Banner stalking the Dazzler? And I like how it's kind of maybe Taylor Swift inspired a little bit. And I just enjoyed it. I just thought it was great. And I like the little bit of alternate universe stuff too. It's a different version of Hulk. It might be a little bit different version of Dazzler, even though she looked the same. We got to see this version of Natasha Romanoff in here, who is a music manager, right, or a tour manager, I should say, but she's in charge of the missions that Dazzler does. So yeah, this was a fun book. I think I'm gonna give this one a B. Not sure where it's gonna go from here, but it's definitely worthy of checking out a second issue. All right, so we got a little bit of bonus coverage here for you today, even though this is not a #1 issue, but I felt it was necessary to put this book on Worthy Ones to see if it was worthy or not. And this was A Death in the Family, the Batman Robin Lives issue, right? A lot of us have all read this book where we saw Jason Todd die at the hands of the Joker. Well, this is basically a what if Jason Todd had lived, right? So I wanted to see where they went, how this story deviated from the original book, right? A lot of us know in the history of this where you call the 1-800 number and you're like, pick if Jason Todd lives or dies. Well, people pick that, he died. So here is that alternate story. This is the script that they wrote, okay? So we're going to go through it. I'm going to show you the pages. So I can honestly tell you not much really changed. That was the disappointing thing of it. This book was 32 pages and this one was $5. It's written by Jim Starlin. If you guys haven't known that, Jim Aparo is the artist here, and the art is good. It's the exact same art. It's just like they read, they did 2 copies of this book and they changed a few things. Everything that you know and love to this comic, to the ads, are just, they're there. They're super accurate. It's pretty cool, right? Okay, so let's talk about this story. So when it comes to this story, it's basically a carbon copy to the point where we see Batman where he finds Robin, okay? So when he finds Jason, he sees him here. This is my trade, okay, of that particular point in time. So we see him, he finds him, he hugs him, and then he's all disappointed because he's dead, okay? So here is the part where it's different right from the start. So here is the comic book. So we get to see him, he finds him, he checks his pulse, right? And he's like, he's alive. And he's like so happy. Like, look at that. It's hilarious. So the only difference there is the facial expression, right? And so the book is continued the exact same way as you remembered it when you read it, okay? So now there's one point in the comic here where now there's one grave site there, or one casket. And then when you go to a couple page later, we wind up finding out that I think this story is a little bit extended. There is, I think, one casket. So if I can find where that's at. Yeah. So here's the second casket here. So instead of 2 caskets, there's one. And there is no scene in this comic book where actually you have Jason Todd, who is in the hospital recovering from a coma. So you get an extra page right there. That is the major difference. Jason Todd doesn't say anything. He's in a coma, just lying there. And then everything else from that point on is the exact same in the comic. So that's the only difference. So was this book worthy? Yeah, it's worthy, because you know what? If you are a completionist and if you've had every single comic or every single, copy of this story, with the death in the family stuff, it's like, oh, I gotta buy it to check it out. But if you were expecting something different from Jason Todd here, or him to speak, no, it's not there, okay? We were talking in the comic shop when it came to this story, like, I would love to see it continue, to see, like, since Jason Todd lived, would he deviate from being Red Hood or being so pissed off, or would he exactly go down that same path? Because really, at the end of the day, nothing changed. He got resurrected, right? So I don't know. We'll see. But again, if you're a completionist and you have all the death in the family stuff, this is the book that you want to pick up. But I'm not going to give this one a grade, just for the pure reason of being that, hold on, no. So if I had to give this book a grade, I'm still going to give it an A, because it's a badass story, right? But if you're looking for a change, it's just nothing really, changed in it. Now, let's hold on. So if I had to give this book a grade, I'm going to grade it based off of like how it was come out in the olden days. I mean, it's an A. It's an A book, man. I love it, no matter what. If you're expecting something to change, no, there's not much change, like I said. but it's still a fun read and a good book to put in your collection. So there you have it, webheads, another episode of Worthy Ones in the Books. I want to hear in the comments below what you deemed worthy or not worthy for this comic book week. And as always, guys, if you love my content, I'll leave you all the books I picked up on my newest Comic Book Day haul. And of course, guys, support the local comic shops. Keep buying, keep collecting, but more importantly, always read the comics. Guys, I'll see you real soon. Take care. Bye.